With the RAMpocalypse being in full throttle, there are some certain considerations you have to make when you're trying to buy PC parts. First of all, RAM is stupid expensive, so you're probably not going to get a good set of RAM. In lieu of that, what are the solutions? Well, if you're building a new PC and you're okay building on an end-of-life platform, you can just go with AM4 and then you're pretty much good. The prices are still really bad there, but it's not as bad as DDR5, at least from last I checked. But if you're not interested in doing that, you really want to go with AM5 or one of the newer DDR5 platforms, there is going to be an issue with that. So yeah, here's the issue. Let's switch over here. So here is our RAM prices currently. Let me move myself over there. You could see easily, if it's not obvious, that these prices are insane. You're easily paying $400 for a good set of DDR5 RAM, easy, at 32 gigs, right? So here we have laptop memory seems to have been impacted less than the desktop memories modules, so this is nice for people who have laptops. It's going to be easier to upgrade now. I don't think that'll last long. There's adapters that can be used to make laptop memory work with, desktops. I think, who was it? Jay's 2 Cents, I believe, did a experiment where they used laptop RAM through these adapters, and you could get it to work, but it was at a lower clock speed. That is something interesting to keep in mind. These could start to go really high up soon. But yeah, let's see. So this is super expensive. So I got to thinking, you see this in other places too, where some people suggest doing something like this. What if we ended up just buying one stick of 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM and be ready for when prices might come down or when you're in a better financial situation to buy another stick to throw in there, and then you're at the, the perfect 32 gigs. And while I think 16 gigs is very usable nowadays, you might still want to leave that space to have 32 in the future without having to buy 2 whole sticks or whatever to get the perfect, thing there. But here's the thing. It's still going to cost you a pretty penny. I bought my kit of DDR5 6000 3676, if the timings matter to you. It's a CL30, right? I bought it for like $100 not that long ago, and now you're spending, $180 for a single stick of DDR5 6000, and this is CL36, so we're probably talking 36, 36, 36, 96, right? Let's see. But yeah, you have 36, 36, 36, 96, which at this price for a single stick of DDR5 6000 is not what you generally prefer, right? That's not really what you'd want generally. So yeah, that's the limitation with doing this. Nowadays though, you're talking everything's super expensive, right? Everything's super expensive. If you want to go down this route, you're talking $180 for 16 gigs for decent RAM, right? 16 gigs of RAM for decent RAM. So what I want to do today in this video is just, I'm going to take out one of the sticks of RAM for my system. That my RAM would be a little bit better than this because, it's a higher speed. But I'm going to take out one of my sticks, see how the capacity works. This will be single channel. Not only are you losing out, the capacity, but you're going from dual channel to single channel. With DDR5, that's less of an issue than it was historically, but it still does lose you some speed. So that is another thing to keep in mind. We're going to see if that really, if anything breaks. I'm going to be testing this with a system running a 9800 X3D, a 5080. It's going to be 16 gigs of RAM and single channel, DDR5 6000 CL30, right? And then just, your average SSD. And I'm just going to be playing some games, and we're going to see how that goes and see if I notice any issues. So, yeah, let's get into it. All right, we're going to go and we're going to take out one of my sticks of RAM. We're going to take out this one on the right because that's the primary one. Whichever's closest to the CPU is generally the one you want to leave on the second row, or the second. Most of you know this already, but it's really weird because of the way that they read RAM. It goes from the top or the bottom, I don't remember which side, and it loops around and then comes back through both. So you want the data to be traveling through as little empty space as possible. I think this was just a rule of thumb from forever ago when it was actually important. I don't know if it's actually that big of a deal nowadays, but yeah, that's just something I wanted to mention. Yeah, we're just going to take that. Come on. There we go. I want to double check that I don't have 2, because some motherboards have 1, some other have 2. There we go. It's out. This stuff is worth a fortune now. Man, a gold mine right here. Alright, so I went ahead and booted up the PC. This is now running 16 gigs of RAM. Anyway, so yeah, here we go. I now have the same amount of VRAM as I have installed RAM. This is my processor, right? This 9800X3D. We're currently, 16 gigabytes. That's going to be super fun. Let's see how this works out. So I made it a big point when I'm doing this that I'm not closing any background apps. This is just how my PC is, okay? So it will be a little different from person to person, but I feel like this is a more realistic scenario, right? So down here, I have a ton of tasks in my tray. This is just stuff that I use on the regular. This is stuff for my microphone setup. This is stuff for my my stream stuff. And so that's all stuff I run in the background just normally. And I also got wallpaper engine running. The only difference is that I'm running on only one screen because I'm currently using a capture card, and it's hard to use multiple screens with that kind of setup when I only have 2 screens to begin with. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to go and play some games and see if we run into any issues. I'm going to open Task Manager. Let's see. Performance. We are currently on just the desktop here, already using 7 gigs. My laptop that I use is actually only has 16 gigs of RAM, but I haven't noticed any issues with RAM usage starting to break things yet. But it might be different if you have, expensive parts. If you're running high-tiered parts, you're trying to run games at higher settings, I don't know what that looks like. On my laptop, it's all lower tier, so I run everything at lower settings to begin with. A game I know struggles with RAM is Hogwarts Legacy, so I might try that if I have it installed. But first, I think I'm just going to run Oblivion Remastered, see how that runs. I don't think that's one that really struggles with RAM, but we're just going to examine it. Again, I don't think this is going to be an issue for most things. Most things, 16 gigabytes is just fine, and you're going to be just fine with it. The big thing that I want to see through this experience is whether or not I'm more likely to be RAM limited and stuff, whatever that looks like. I think that would appear as the same way that a CPU limit does, where your GPU starts to lower its percentage. But that's the thing we're going to be looking for, whether that single channel really matters. 16 gigs I think is plenty of capacity for most people right now, if you're not trying to do like heavy productivity tasks. But we will try opening up a project in like DaVinci Resolve or something to see what that looks like. All right, so we're in the menu now. Let's go ahead and just hit continue. Let's go to wherever I was last. But yeah, I doubt this will be a huge issue, but let's see. All right, we are now in it, and we can see in our top left that we're only using like 14 gigs of RAM. If you see, it's going to be all the way up here. It likes to fluctuate around the 14 gig mark, which is not bad, not terrible. We are currently, let's see what my settings are, because my percentage is a little low. So I have a mix of ultra and high. I've turned down shadows and global illumination because the difference between the ultra and the high is very minimal. And then I just kept everything else ultra because those were the most, they were the settings that were affecting my performance the most, and I just wanted a few extra frames, so I did that. Running Lumen Hardware RT at ultra and DLSS balanced at 4K. Now we are at 4K here. And we're getting about 70, mid 70s. But the thing I'm noticing is that GPU usage likes to fluctuate, but I think that's a normal thing for this game to do. It doesn't like using the full GPU. It's really weird. And also, if you notice that frame time graph, that's where so this is a video on YouTube. It kind of struggles to capture the actual real-life fluidity. So what you want to look at is that frame time graph and also 1% lows. I'm going to go ahead and begin our benchmark, and that's going to appear at the top there. You see that number that says 1% low, 1% right up there? That's our 1% lows. And what that's measuring is the bottom 1% of all of the frame time issues we're getting. And what we're seeing is that we're easily spiking down into the 46 frames per second range, right? Oh, there we go. We had a big stutter into the mid 30s, right? And so that means that just the feeling of the game is going to be a little less smooth. When you're using an NVIDIA card, for some reason this game just stutters a ton. It's just a stutter fest, this game in general. Lots of traversal stutter. Lots of traversal stutter, constant stuttering. That's just Oblivion Remastered for you. Oh, we're going to kill this guy. He's dead. All right, yeah, this is pretty, average stuff. I'm not really seeing any difference from when I played it. Maybe a bit lower of 1% lows. That might be about it. But that RAM usage is staying at an okay level. It's almost 15 gigs. And again, this is with only my standard background task. This is no Chrome tabs are open. We're going to see if I tried to play like a YouTube video in the background. Let's see what happens when I do that. All right, let's just go ahead and do this random hardware unboxed video. I'm just going to mute that in the background so we don't have to hear it. Oh, hey, dude. All right, so that's in the background now, and our RAM usage hasn't seemed to have gone up too much. Let's see what Task Manager reads this at. We're currently using 14 gigs of 16 processes. What are we looking at? Google is using almost a gig of memory, while Oblivion's only using almost 8, right? That's a gig of memory for one tab, which, I mean, it's an active tab, right? It's playing a video in the background. And there are memory optimization things you can do, right? But that is a whole gig for one tab. So let's go ahead. Let's just duplicate this. What if we're playing? This is a totally unrealistic scenario, but imagine you're doing another RAM intensive or another task that uses a more RAM. And now it seems to, oh yeah, our RAM usage definitely went up. Yeah, we're using now 1.5 gigs for the Chrome window, and 7.5 for Oblivion, but Oblivion's been shown to, fluctuate. And we almost used all of our RAM for a second there. Okay, we're getting stutters, but that could just be normal stutters. Let's go ahead and reset the, let's go ahead and go away. I don't want you. No, Afterburner, come back. Oh, Oblivion crashed. But why did it crash? Let's see. System failed to capture the call stack for this crash, so it doesn't even know what crashed it. Okay. Let's try that again. So these are the 2 videos running in the background. Let's go back into Oblivion Remastered. All I wanted to do was restart the benchmark run, and it decided to kill itself. That is unfortunate. Oh, if you look here, it peaked. Did it crash because we ran out of RAM? I have no clue. Because if you look right here, it did peak for a second. And it's climbing. And again, this is a very unrealistic scenario. This is kind of just pushing it to its limit. We're running 2 videos in the background, right? 2 videos just running in the background. Let's go ahead and separate them into separate windows. Right? 2 videos in the background, but if you're like running Discord, maybe streaming your view to your friends, maybe watching their views in the background, and this is one screen. All right, let's see if that RAM creeps up again. I don't think this is a terribly unrealistic scenario, generally. If you're really trying to, do a bunch of multitasking, it's not terribly unrealistic. If you're watching a YouTube video and on a call with friends and playing games and stuff like that, you could be reaching issues like this. But generally, if you're just building a system to play some games, you're not going to run into any real issues with 16 gigs, except for, I think, in Hogwarts Legacy. There's some traversal stutter. Let's begin our benchmark. Make sure I get that traversal stutter in there, because that might get worse as we near the RAM limit. Again, one of these guys, the imps. All right, just deal with him real quick. Move on. Yeah, we just had a 1% low stutter down to 19. That's fun. We're easily going below 30, which I never saw when I was using 32 gigs of RAM. But again, this is 2 videos in the background, right? So if you're just playing this game at 4K with this hardware, you're not going to be seeing these issues. Let's watch it climb. Let's check on those videos. How are they doing? They're still just playing their hearts out. And let's continue. We're almost at 15 gigs. I think we're kind of just chilling around 15 a lot of the time. But we still, I feel like the traversal stutter's gotten worse. That's what I've noticed. As we're nearing that VRAM limit, as we have more background tasks, I believe we are getting a little bit worse of 1% lows, just as traversal, as we're loading in new things, and it's being forced to dump some stuff out of the RAM. Oh, there we go. Big stutter. Stutters I have not seen before, and I do believe that my frames are just it feels a little bit more sluggish than I'm used to. So that's something to note, but that's not like an objective metric. Now let's go ahead. So I think it's kind of found its rhythm. I think last time it was because I tried to open another app suddenly after it like turned off or something, and it tried to access stuff and it broke, right? Weird things. I don't know. But let's go ahead. Let's do this. We're going to make it even harder, right? Even more unrealistic. Let's say you're watching multiple streams from your friends on Discord and watching a YouTube video and playing a game with it that's RAM intensive and all that. Let's go ahead and duplicate this tab again and have 3 videos running in the background. And what is our RAM at now? It already climbed. Our processes have Google Chrome using 1.5 terabyte or 1.5 gigabytes. Wow, that would be crazy. Can you imagine that? And Oblivion's using a little over 8 gigs. And yeah, we are right around 15, right? Let's see, as we move around. Let's put this away so I can move faster. As we move around, let's see. That frame time graph is all over the place. Like, that could just be Oblivion being Oblivion. Well, let's fight these dudes. Come at me. Oh, you're going to fight the wolf? Okay, have fun. But let's see. I think it's found its groove a little bit. See, kill them. I think it has found a groove a little bit. It might just be dumping more stuff. Though our 1% lows are so low. I never experienced 1% lows be that low consistently in this game, although it's not totally unexpected. I believe that is due to the RAM configuration we are currently running. But yeah, that's 3 videos running in the background, like actively. Oblivion has to have lowered its RAM usage, I think, currently. Let's go ahead again. Let's do another YouTube video in the background. So now we're running 4 YouTube videos, I believe. It should be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4 videos in the background. It is now using almost 2 gigs of memory in the background. And let's do some more of this. I think this might be when we start to run into some issues. Oh, that's weird. Why are we are lower RAM usage now? Oblivion like tanked its RAM usage down to 2 gigs. What? How is that even possible? It cleared everything. So that's interesting. It seems like eventually it just stopped using allocating a lot of RAM to Oblivion. Now it's only allocating like a little bit. And so our 1% lows are getting worse because I think it has to keep recycling stuff into RAM. And so our 1% lows are getting significantly worse. However, we are currently only using 13 gigs of RAM. And look at those 1% lows, though. That 23%, 23 FPS, I mean, is crazy. But we're staying below 13 gigs of RAM with 4 background videos. But yeah, that it does not feel the greatest to play when your 1% lows are at 24. Regardless of how smooth it sometimes looks, it's stuttery, and it does not feel the greatest. Let's see. Troll. Let's fight the troll. Oh, yeah. Trolls in this game are so much easier than in Skyrim. It's not even funny. You can just run up to them and, heavy attack them. Oh, okay. All right, yep. And then it's easy. But yeah, so our 1% lows have gotten significantly worse as we've used more RAM. It's allocating less RAM to the game. That's my only running theory, right? And it's due to the fact that it knows it'll run out of RAM if it allocates that larger amount. So if we were to go and now close out of a couple of those games, let's see if our RAM usage actually goes back up in Oblivion Remastered. Let's see if it figures itself out and starts using more RAM. No. It seems to have given up on using RAM. It's decided we're not cool enough to use more RAM. Wait, it might still be climbing. We're now at 3, but I think 3 was the cap for it earlier. Yeah, I think it's staying around 3. Let's go ahead and reboot this game. All right, we're back in. Hopefully it's using more RAM now. Let's go ahead and restart our numbers. Yeah, and you see that RAM usage is already higher than we were seeing when we had the 4 tabs open. I really think once it started breaching the 16 gig limit, it's like, okay, we're going to bring that down a little bit, and it capped its RAM allocation at 3 gigs, and now we're back at probably that 8 gig, 9 gig mark, right? Yeah, we're back right around 9 gigabytes of usage now that Chrome is being less, and we're probably going to be seeing much better 1% lows and less often stutter. We're still going to get that traversal stutter that Oblivion just has, but I imagine our 1% lows will stay hopefully above 30, unlike the low 20s we were seeing when we were using only 3 gigs of VRAM. Let's see, I don't really know. How much of this is single channel configuration? Unsure, because I do feel like this is definitely more stuttery than I was playing it before. When I was playing this with dual channel at 32 gigs, I was never seeing stutters below 30, and just during traversal. But again, it's Oblivion, so who knows? It might just be impacted by the single channel more. So let's go ahead and switch to another game. All right, now we're going to, with only a single Chrome tab, not doing anything, open, we're going to go ahead and try launching and playing Cyberpunk 2077, 16 gigs of RAM at whatever crazy path tracing settings. It's a 5080. Come on, we want to get the full path tracing, right? So we're going to try doing that and see what that looks like. I think we should be fine. This is an older game at this point, and I don't think it has RAM usage issues. What's going to be interesting is when we get into running background tasks. So let's see. All right, RAM usage as we're loading in, currently at 8 gigs. That's mostly just what the desktop was using, to be honest. So we'll see how that changes as we enter in here. All right, checking settings, 4K, performance DLSS, using the transformer model. DLS is multi-frame gen 4 times. I never use 4 times. I don't know why that's set to 4 times. Then we have ray tracing set to Psycho, not path traced. Let's go ahead and just switch that to path tracing real quick. There we go. Path traced, crowd density high. We're running this will be one of the more demanding things on the CPU, which may affect the RAM as well. Not sure about that. All of these turned off except for the field of view being at 100. Just these extra post-processing stuff that kind of just blurs the image, makes it a little more obscure. Then we have context shadows. All of these set to their relative maximum. And yeah, there we go. That is all of our settings. Let's go ahead and apply that, close out of this, and go ahead and hit continue. All right, fully decked out Cyberpunk, 3 times frame gen, path traced. Let's see. Well, we're only using 10 gigs of system RAM. I really don't think the system RAM is the bottleneck at all right now. I think we're A-okay currently. Go ahead and call in my car or whatever I'm using currently. What? Where are you? Oh, it's over here. I literally am just stupid. Let's try to go to an area that's more intensive. I know this, like, these more barren areas tend to be... Oh, wow, okay. Tend to be a little bit easier to run, so let's see. Where can I go? Let's see what's over here. Vroom, 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 vroom. Lots of driving. This is going to be so much fun. I realize I haven't had audio throughout this thing yet, so that's on now. Now, what you will want to notice is that... Hold on, let me reset this. Is that 1% lows are totally borked when using frame gen. Frame gen currently, like, totally screws up the frame time graph. That's been the case since DLSS 4 frame gen came out and changed the way it works a little bit. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. 1% lows and that frame time graph are not quite accurate to what you're seeing on screen. All right, so I don't think, really, we're only around 12 gigs of system RAM running around in here. I do not think this will be an issue at all. Let's go ahead and do our thing where we play a YouTube video. All right, we're gonna turn on this Crisby video about 5090 and front doors of Pandora. This is only 3 days ago, okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and turn that on. We're already at around almost 13 gigs of usage here for the RAM. Let's go ahead and immediately, though, because we know this is gonna work fine, I'm actually gonna duplicate it twice. So we should be at either 2 gigabytes of, yeah, let's see. Where's our task manager at? We are now using 1.5 gigabytes for the Chrome tab and under 6 for Cyberpunk. And yeah, you're going to be totally fine in this. I just don't see a, like, let's go, just keep opening more of these, right? Let's keep opening more of these in the background. More. I need more YouTube videos. I can't live without as much Crisby on my screen as possible. I need more. All right, so now after opening, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows playing videos. We now have Google Chrome using almost 3 gigs. We have Cyberpunk using 5, about 5. Our 1% lows, oh no, that's not going to be accurate, right? So if I reset our benchmark here, there we go. Yeah, we're pretty much chilling. And that's with 6 videos running in the background in Chrome. That's no problem. No problem at all. You're not going to run into any issues in this game while running any background stuff. All right, part 2. The next thing we're going to try to do is edit using this thing. The machine I'm currently using to do all this stuff is also my editing machine. It's what I do everything on. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to go ahead and open up DaVinci Resolve. And this is what we've had so far. I'm going to be actively editing this video in this video, so that's going to be fun. And we're just going to see how the RAM usage affects this, if at all. Hopefully it doesn't do much, but I'm going to keep Task Manager up. Again, this is running a ton of background processes, right? So let's see. Go ahead and name this single channel RAM. I know, don't judge my names or anything. I kind of suck at that. Go ahead and make sure Afterburner's off, because sometimes Afterburner can be annoying about that. There we go. And let's go ahead and let's just throw in our stuff. This is the introduction. Just going to throw this in. Again, don't judge my editing. I'm not good at editing. All I do is cut stuff up and throw stuff together. I suck. But let's see. We're just going to throw this all together. This is our introduction. All right, so I went ahead and sped up this portion quite a bit. But what I noticed throughout this bit of poor editing, of course, was just the timeline itself felt a little bit more stuttery. So that's what I noticed. Apart from that, the RAM usage wasn't going up, but I think that the RAM configuration was definitely impacting the overall flow of the timeline. So far, not really any issues. We're only using 8 gigs of RAM. I've only edited a tiny bit, but just scrubbing through and all that, it's not a big deal. There's nothing really happening. Well, if you're building a new PC, so yeah, I'll check in periodically. Okay, so what I have noticed, if you're building a new, is that there is so much stutter. Well, if you're building a it doesn't smoothly go through the transition between two clips. If you're building a new All right, real quick check-in with you guys. We're currently using 10 gigs of memory with just these 3 videos in my timeline here. And all I'm doing is cutting these things and using transitions. That's all I'm doing with my editing. If you have a much larger editing thing you're doing, much larger project, it could become an issue using only 16 gigs of RAM. But for me, with what I'm doing, it's not going to be a big deal unless I'm talking a really long project. When I was doing my DLDSR video, that could have been an issue with some of the things I was doing where it was multiple happening at once with different layers and different stuff going on, multiple different stuff happening all at once. But in general, I think you're going to be just fine for normal computer use. With stuff like this, you might actually start to run into some issues. But yeah, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this video here. I've got to finish up all the editing before I can post it. But I'd just like to thank you all for tuning in. It means the world. We hit 1K, which is awesome. I can't believe it. I still got to think of what I'm actually going to do to celebrate hitting 1K. It's just so awesome. I think I might do a live stream. If you didn't notice already, I am using a different camera, which is technically a quality downgrade, but it is a productivity upgrade in so many ways that I've made the switch. If you have any suggestions on what I can do to make it better, I've had to turn on multiple lights, and yet I'm still not resolving detail as well as I was with my phone. Phone cameras are just so good, especially if you have a flagship, that it's hard to get an affordable camera that's worth it. I'm currently using the Insta360 Link 2, the one that everybody talks about everywhere, and it looks solid. It's just not nearly as good as my phone, which obviously when you're buying flagship phones, it's like half of what they do. Yeah, this video is a ton of fun. Hopefully you guys found some enjoyment out of it, gained some information you didn't quite realize before. And yeah, this camera will allow me to do everything so much faster. It's hooked up straight to my PC. I'm able to just record everything and have it all just thrown into my editing timeline like that. And so it's just so much easier. And I'll also be able to live stream like this. So that's going to be so much fun when time comes for that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It means the world. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful New Year's. Oh my gosh. Hopefully 2026 is better for RAM prices. Although I highly doubt it. It's just going to be worse through 2028. But yeah, thank you guys so much for everything. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.